Hi everyone, my name is Gil Sousa. I am from Portugal, and it's a pleasure to be here to share a few ideas about the individual development training. And to talk a little bit about myself, I have been working as an assistant coach. In this moment, I am working in the UAE as a technical director. As well, I am responsible for the individual training in all the club. Before this experience, I work in the Vitoria in the Portuguese First Division, and before I worked in Braga in under 23 as assistant coach as well. Also, in this moment, I am enrolled in the UEFA Pro in Scotland, in Scottish FA Association. I published as well a book. It was a result of my last master degree, and I won the contest of the Portuguese Football Federation for the best thesis about football. Also, I published 3 articles for the Spanish magazine Tactical Room, edited by Marty Perernau. So this is a little bit about myself. But today I would like to focus my idea about the individual development training, essential about how to work regarding the individual training with adults in the senior ages, because it's so important for me, and I think there is a different perspective when we are working with academies or when you are working with the youth age groups on where you are working with adults about individual training. Because in this step, as I mentioned here, the players are full conscious about the skills, are full conscious about the pathway. So I think our approach, our style in the individual training should be different also. Here, in my opinion, we should focus about strengths and weakness regarding the players. Instead, when you are talking about young age groups, in my perspective, we should have an approach more open-ended and with all the players, not focus in the details or whatever. But we will talk a little bit more about that later. The first point for me is who is the responsible for the individual training. Should be the assistant coach, should be the extra coach. So only one coach responsible for the individual training. What is better? Because sure, it's depending about the club. It depends about the culture as well, the country sometimes. But what is really important, in my opinion, is to create a relationship with the players. That's why sometimes make a lot of sense if the responsible of the individual training is an assistant coach, because he can understand better, he can be more present in the training sessions, he can be more present in the match as well. Because if the players, they don't feel a natural relationship, it's not easy to try to create a connection. It's not easy to talk with them so close. That's why we need to be natural. They must trust us as an individual coach, because sure, everybody wants to be better. Everybody wants to improve. If we have a good dynamic with the players, everybody wants to improve. The next point to touch is, don't wait for the player to ask you that he wants to make an extra shot after training, or the player wants to try a free kicks or a few pass. No, I think it's important for us to take the initiative to organize our schedule, to organize our plan for the week. That's why the next point for me is where, do it, and when. So when you are talking about adults, I think the individual training is also so important when you are talking about the players that can be promoted for the first team, when we have a player in the second team, but we are expecting that this player can achieve the first team, but we need to improve a few skills. these kind of players, I think, is essential for them, the individual training. And that's why I create this question about where we should do it. We should imagine a player that can sometimes in the first team, or a player that was promoted for the first team. So we have two different scenarios. So a player that is training all the time in the first team, and a player that comes sometimes to training with the first team, but all the time he is training with the second team. So in this last example, I think it's better, for example, for the player to try individual training in the second team, because he can feel more confident, he can feel more comfortable. So it's important, even in the individual training, to create a comfortable scenario for the player, for him to understand that it's a space where the player can improve even the weakness points, not only the strength points. So when we understand, or even when the player tell us that he need to improve about something, he need a comfortable scenario for that. That's why sometimes if he's trying to do it in the first team, maybe is not the best place, because the player can be shamed for to be there. So maybe if he try in the second team, he can feel better to try it, even if the other players are watching or not, depending, because even when we stay a little bit after training or before, the other players can watch them, and sure, everybody wants to feel more comfortable to try to improve. So the other point is when we should do it: before, during, after training, or in a different moment. For example, if the team is training during the morning, should we come during the afternoon to try to create an extra session only about individual training? I think there is not a right answer. It depends about a lot of things, but we need to be open to work in these different scenarios. As well, about the best day to try to create individual training session. I think is a little bit indifferent also. It depends about the coaching points also. It depends as well about the impact that we can preview that the individual training can have or not. But what is so important for me, 100% sure, is to plan the session, to understand what we want to work with the players all the time. It's one important point for me. But all the time, all of these things, depending, in my opinion, about the moment of the team, the moment of the player, and the personality of the player. If we try to understand these 3 points, we can organize a better session for the player to get the better things from his side, and as well for our team. Because if we have better players, sure, we will have a better team as well. As I told you before, for me, it's so important to organize the week, and all the time, I don't think about individual training as something separate. I think the individual training, together with the other dimensions, with the other ideas for the week. So that's why it's so important to talk with the head coach, to talk with the staff, to talk with the all departments inside the club. It's so important to relate the individual training with the other topics. That's why, for me, the individual training is just a line inside of our week, and we should relate the individual training with the other topics for the week. And after this, if we understand that we should create an individual training session today, tomorrow, yesterday, doesn't matter, we are ready to talk with the players, and sometimes we can we can say for them in advance, so tomorrow you should stay a little bit after the training. So tomorrow it's better for you to arrive a little bit before the training. Or even I cannot say nothing for the players, and I am just waiting how the training is going. And in the end of the training, I can say for the player or not, but I planned it before. So if I have everything planned, even my coaching points, even the players that I want to work or not, I am reducing the the unpredictability for the players. So I am more ready. I am more ready to prepare the session. I am more ready to talk with them. I am more ready about the exercise. I am more aware about the trainings that I can do or not. So it's very important to have everything planned. This is the best point for the most important point for me. Just to finish about this topic, all the time I like to think about 3-4 topics regarding the individual training as well. I mentioned that in the hand of this slide below the table. So for me, the variability in the individual training is so important. That's why I mentioned repeat, not repeating. It is about mainly about the executions for the player. Imagine that you are training with the strikers, so try to create different executions for the player, like in this level, in different angles, as well with the weak foot. Even with the adults, even with the top players, we can give like 3 good balls for the strong foot, but at least 1 or 2 balls for the weak foot is also important for them to improve about the weak foot. As well about a logic of continuity. It's not only about training, it's also about learning, understanding, and about neuroscience as well. So neuroscience tells us that if we repeat, for example, in the next day, the same action in the day before, it's not only about training, it can be about when you are learning about a new language, a new topic, doesn't matter. If you repeat the same thing that we tried in the day before in the next day, so our chance to be better is so high than if we only create one session today and other session in the next week or the next month. So if we try to create a training session today and we repeat, if it's possible, the next day, the chance to increase the learning process is higher than if we try only one time. And the last point, it's the degrees of freedom. It means about a topic, a biomechanical point. We should not create a lot of trajectories, a lot of constraints. We should not create a lot of restrictions for the players. That's why we should give the freedom for them to act. Should be should give the freedom for them to try something so natural that can be more realistic. So this is the point. This is a few points for me that are important to manage the individual session as well. And just to finish here as well, all the time I am thinking from the conscious to unconscious learning process. It means that, for example, sometimes we can introduce the topic with the players, start speaking with them, but all the time what we want is to watch the behavior even without speaking. So we need to achieve the natural point. This is the target for us as a coach. Here we have an example is Vitinha in this moment in Marseille. I work with him in Braga. And I would like to use his example to talk a little bit about that. So For me, the players inside the club, all of them are different. So the players are not all the same, and we should create the most valuable players. We should create the concept of MVP. Who are the best players inside of our club? Because the players are different. That's why we should work, for example, more times with a kind of players than others. It's normal. It's like in our lives. It's the same thing. Nobody is the same. That's why even with the MVP, the most valuable players, in my opinion, we should work more times in the individual training than the others. Mainly when we are talking about the players that are working, for example, in the B team, and we want to promote them for the first team. These players should have more time in the individual training to be more ready to achieve the first team. I think it's something really important. Even they will feel more confident and more comfortable. So these two strategies, I think, are important, as I mentioned before. So promoting players for the upper age groups. For example, if we have a good player in under 70, he can be promoted for under 18. If we have a good player in under 18, he can be promoted for under 19, and so and so. So what we want is tough contexts, demanding opponents, demanding teammates. It's all the time important as well. Create more sessions about individual training, as we mentioned. Just to wrap up this point, to resume this point, before the gold step, like to achieve the first team, even for us as a coach, it's important even in the adult's age to not forget about a few things that can influence our scouting process, our understanding, our observation process. Like, for example, to understand the BS of the players, because the players are not all the same, and a lot of times happen that we are watching it. A good midfielder, for example, that was promoted in the last season, and in this season we are expecting to watch a player very similar with this one. No, the players are different. That's why we should understand the BS among the players. So all the players are different. The maturity as well, the personality and adaptation of the club, the country, and so, and to understand as well the Mount effect. Even in adults age, around 17, 18, 19 years old, sometimes there is a big influence if the player was born, for example, in January or December. Even in this age, sometimes we can also watch a few differences inside the same age group. After this age, sure, there is no problems about that, but until here, sometimes even there is a few problems regarding that. The other chips side of the club. So for me, never the individual training is separate of the other areas. The other areas, in particular from the head coach, we should talk a lot with the head coach, with the technical director, with the video analyst, the sports science, the psychologist. We should involve everybody around the individual training. Mainly because in the end of our training, we want to collect video information, we want to collect GPS data, we want to collect all of data that is possible. And also, nowadays, there is a lot of information about GPS data, but as well, we should prepare more qualitative data. It means, for example, to count the number of passes, to count the number of goals, to count, for example, the number of scannings the player in the training or the match, even inside the individual training. We should create more qualitative data that this kind of information will help the player to understand his performance, what he can improve or not only about numbers, but also about numbers that can translate the game idea for the players. That's why for me is determinant to involve the video analyst and the sports science department in the individual training. I prepared a few examples for you, and I organized that, like, for example, before training, during training, or after training. Even before training, sometimes we can apply the concept of the individual training with all the team, even before the warm-up. Depend the culture, depend the head coach, the head coach idea for the training, but is also a good idea. Here we can see the players, something very simple for them, just to start to touch the ball. They have only one touch to start. Imagine that we can say only to play with the left, or only can play with the right, depending, but only one touch. Is not possible to touch the ball with the chest or whatever, only with the foot. And here, a very similar example, but by teams. We have 3 teams competing. They have only one touch, and they need to keep the ball more time in the air with only one touch. A few examples during the training. Here we are working in stations, like different stations for different positions, or different groups, or different units, like, for example, defensive unit, or midfielders unit, or forwards unit. Doesn't matter. The first one is example to work with the forwards and the defenders. So in this moment, the orange guys, they are trying to achieve the line in the hand, or the lateral line, and the players with the yellow bibs, they should avoid the player to go forward or for left side in this case. Okay, the other example is kind of work with the forwards. We created a few dynamics with the players, and they are repeating by different ways the same dynamic, with different stimuli, with different kind of balls, but they are repeating like one group. When they finish, start the second group, and after start again the first group, and after start again the second group. What is important in these kind of situations is repeating the process more and more times as possible, for them to understand, to create connections, to create dynamics. And after training, we can also make a few kinds of training sessions. The first one is also about the defensive situation, and the player is trying to push the opponent to outside. Is very good for them to be involved. It's so intense, is really, really good. And the last one is to try to score in the first post. They need to get position, they need to understand, they need to wait for the right tempo, the right timing to attack the first post. Is something so important, and in this kind of exercise, I am like a defender, as a coach, to try for the player to get the right tempo. And for example, when we decide to create a session in the different times, so imagine the players, the team has worked during the morning, and during the afternoon we decided to make a few jobs regarding individual training, regarding different coaching points. So in this case, we have 4 stations, and we have 4 coaching points, and the players again are repeating, not repeating. So different stimuli, different opportunities to try again is something important. As well, I would like to talk about a little bit about our responsibility to create a culture, to create a contest inside the club. Here we have four images about four different scenarios, four different exercises we can mention like that, or four different contexts, I think is better. The first one in the left side, the upside, we have a player playing against the wall. So sometimes we can have a wall in our club, and we should encourage the players. Why not to go there before training, after training? It's our role, it's our job to encourage the players sometimes to try to play a few kind of these exercises, a few kind of these games, these scenarios with freedom. We don't need to be there with them. We just should encourage. Guy, why not you go there a little bit with your friend or whatever? Things like that work very well. In the right side, we have, for example, a football pitch with net or without net, doesn't matter. Why not we create a football pitch and put that, set up the football pitch near of the ground, and at the same time we are encouraged the players to arrive early in the training, to be ready early in the training, to be ready for the session, but they are arriving early to play like 5 minutes, 10 minutes about football, even without warm-up. In the right side, we have something special, not mainly, maybe not for the adults age, but can work, in my opinion, with the young age groups. It's something very popular in Italy. The name is Gabionata de Calcio. It's like a jail to play inside. The ball never goes out, so they are keeping the ball inside. The intensity is so high. It can work very well with the age, the young age. And to finish, in the left side, we have a tech ball table. Nowadays is so popular. We can set up the table in anywhere. But here, what is really important for me is to understand how the players are playing without boots. So even two players without socks. So depending the club, depending the culture again, but I think sometimes it comes from our side to encourage, not to force, but to encourage, because nowadays the players sometimes they need like an advice or whatever to start to create something fun or to understand what is possible or not. But is a good is a good topic, is something that can help the players to get better even about skills. What we should influence or not the players. So even here about influencing our style of working as a coach. Why not to cut more times video clips about training and match, and not only about tactical ideas or whatever. Cut more video clips about individual situations, and try to create a database to organize these individual clips, like about strengths and weakness points about each players, mainly about the MVP, mainly about the most valuable players. Imagine that we set like 10 or 5 best players in a team, and we are focused to cut more video clips about training sessions and match about those players. Studying as well the characteristics about the players in our team, in our club. So try to understand the needs of the club. Imagine that we don't have a good left back, or we don't have a good winger, or we need to develop more center backs. Doesn't matter. We should understand the context of our club, the history of our club, and try to create, try to understand, try to study these kind of things inside of our club. Encourage to promote players, encourage as well to create individual and unit video meetings. Why not to create more meetings with the strikers? Why not to create more meetings only with the defensive line, only with the midfielder line? So it's a few ideas. Also, about recordings, we can collect different kind of footage. For example, not only the general, but why not to set up a GoPro near of the goal when you are working with the strikers, to focus more about the executions. Sometimes it's important for them to understand, to watch themselves, is a good idea as well. So using again qualitative data, it's something very important for the player to understand about what is achieving or not regarding the game idea. Like, for example, the scannings again I mentioned here, or the true pass, or the number of times that the player come inside with the ball, or the number of times that the player are passing with the weak foot or not, depending what we want. I think everything comes from the idea for the match, and is not when we, oh, I have a good exercise, so I need to do it. No, we, in my opinion, we should understand what we want. We should understand the game idea mainly from the head coach. We should understand our needs, and after sure we can go for the training. Nowadays we have a new generation, we have a new paradigm, we have a new era. So there is no more football street. That's why I think the individual training is also important. We must have to adapt. And resuming, it's like a chain, it's like a process, it's like a pathway that all the time we are observing, we are training, we are observing, we are training. So it's so important for us to be present in match and training sessions. That's why, again, sometimes it's better that the assistant coach can be responsible for the individual training. It depends about the club. It's depending about the culture. As I told you, now I am working as a technical director. I try to be present in the trainings from the under 15 to under 21 to the first team, to watch all the matches of the first team, under 21, under 19, under 17 in my club, under 15, and so to know very well each player, and to be ready after to work with them on the pitch about the individual training. So doesn't matter what is our rule in the club. What is important is to watch the match, to watch the training sessions, to be ready to understand very well and to have a good connection with the players. If not, it's not easy for them to trust us about individual training. So thank you so much. It was a pleasure. I hope that I tried to help you to create new connections, to think about different things as well. It's all the time important for us to share ideas, and this is our mission also to try to grow. And again, thank you so much, and good job for everyone.